Hey everybody, it's David McLaughlin from the world famous McLaughlin Brothers. We are super excited about our 30th anniversary concert coming up on July 19th. And we decided to get together and do a little podcast or whatever it's called. There's an interview of the four of us talking about our history and some great memories. We did this back in November when the 25th anniversary of our Christmas album was happening. But we thought with the 30th anniversary, we'd do it again and tell some more stories, some stuff we didn't have time for in the other one. So I think you'll enjoy it. Welcome, Mark, David, Scott, and Jason McLaughlin, all. Welcome, everybody. We are so happy to be here to celebrate, anticipate, recreate, motivate, and any other eight, the McLaughlin Brothers Good to Go Back 30th anniversary special. We're super excited about our concert coming up July 19th, and tickets are on sale now. So if you haven't got them, you better get them before they're gone. We do not have unlimited seating. This is limited seating. And so we want to see you all there. We hope you'll be there. How do we want to start? Let's start off, first of all, just introducing everybody. We did this few months ago when we released our Christmas album, the 25th anniversary of that. So we told some stories, kind of went into some depth of how the groups got together and all that kind of stuff. We'll try not to tell all the same stories. We'll try and do something different this time. But first, let me start out by introducing everybody. I started to say top left, but everybody's not going to be able to see the quad anyway. First, Mark McLaughlin. Say hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
He's the old man of the group. And then I'm the middle son, David McLaughlin. And then we have Scott McLaughlin, the youngest. Say hi, Scott.
Heidi ho, neighbors. Hello, hello, hello.
What is that from? Heidi ho, neighbors. I know that's from something. I can't remember.
I don't remember. It just popped in my head and thought I'd use it.
I think it's some cartoon. I can't remember what it is, but I could be wrong. Anyway, and then last but certainly not least, our youngest
of the group.
He just sneezed, folks. Sorry, and I saw it.
Jason Owen, say hi, Jason.
Hello.
All right. So let me give a very quick, because I don't want to go into all the detail we did in the other podcast back at Christmas, but just tell real quick how we got together and what we're doing here. So years and years ago, Mark, Scott, and I had all been in like different bands and stuff. They were both singers. I was a bass player, and we had done stuff through the years in different groups. We'd never sang together. And then our great uncle Ross passed away, and he was a pastor, and the family wanted us to sing at the funeral. So we got together night before, learned a few hymns, sang them. Mark's wife, Kelly, sang and played the piano with us. And as far as funerals go, it went fine. Well, we didn't embarrass ourselves or anything. It was fine. But because he was a pastor, there were a lot of pastors in the audience, and they started calling us individually, like, hey, would you guys come sing? We're all saying, no, we don't do that. Then we got together again, like, I don't know, it was Thanksgiving or Christmas or what it was. We got together and we all mentioned that, hey, people are calling us. So we thought, well, maybe we should try this. So we started out, me, Mark, Scott, and Kelly singing around at churches, mostly around Oklahoma. Then it got to be like a little bigger thing, like started doing a lot more stuff regionally just through word of mouth. And then we got a booking agent who started booking us nationally, and Kelly wasn't so interested in like traveling all the time like that. So then we said, well, let's do a male quartet thing like the old guys that we love, because we always did like the old fashioned stuff, like the Statesmen and Blackwoods and all that kind of stuff. And so we thought, well, let's get a male in the group, and we held auditions. If you want to hear the full story of the auditions, there's a long explanation in one of the Christmas podcasts. But that's when we found good old Jason Owen, who's now Jason Owen McLaughlin. And we've just adopted him right in, and he's truly like a real live brother. So we sang for about 5 years. We did that, and then it just wasn't financially feasible for us to keep touring, so we hung it up. And I know we sang once after that, but I feel like it was twice. Like I know we did the Oklahoma Opry fundraiser with Doug because Mark couldn't be there. We did it with Doug, and I feel like we did one other thing that all four of us were at. But
The only thing that it was where it wasn't a public thing. We were about to do another show, a Christmas show for the opera.
That's it.
It was a
we ended
10-year
up,
anniversary Christmas show, and it got iced out.
yeah,
And that's
Snowed
when we
out.
did
snowed out, and so we ended up doing the videos, the video
Yeah.
series for.
We posted a bunch of videos of us at Scott's house. We were practicing for the Opry show, and since we didn't get to do that, we just posted a bunch of videos. We're wearing like pajamas and sweats and all kinds of stuff. It was because we didn't know we were not singing that night. So I knew there was another time we had practiced. So anyway, today we just wanted to take a little more time and talk about memories and stuff and talk about the 30th anniversary show. I thought, aside from just recapping our beginnings real quick, a good place to start might be with Dale McCoy. Because when we first got together, we thought we need to record an album. And so a guy we knew from our past, Dad knew him years ago and may have sang with him a little bit. I can't remember, but Dale McCoy's a legend in gospel music in Oklahoma. And he had a recording studio. And so anybody want to, I have my favorite part of that story, but anybody else want to talk about little Dale and getting started down there?
Well, Dale, actually, we had quite a track record with him, other than just
grab your album. I see
Oh,
the Center State Boys back there.
You know what? I've got
Yeah, we don't need to see your entire record collection. We just want to see
No,
Lonnie
I've
Montgomery and
got
the Center State Boys.
Dale McCoy's solo album, but I can get that on here. Monty Montgomery and the Sooner State Boys. This guy right here is Dale McCoy. Right next to him is Don Spear.
Who's a great friend of ours since we were kids.
Monty
Mom and Dad knew them. Don's an amazing tenor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy in the middle there is Monty Montgomery, who started the group.
Yep.
And then Dale
And-
resurrected the Center State Boys later on.
Right. And Rex Norman, I believe, is the sax player's name. Don't ask me why I remember that. He's just really good. This
Probably
is
on the
one
back
of
of the
Surprised
ride.
me that you do remember a sax
Yeah.
player's name.
Yeah, this is literally an album we all grew up listening to. I believe. I know me and David did. Pretty sure Mark did too. There's a ton of "Winging My Way Back Home" is on this one. Yeah,
Which we stole.
"Across the Chili Jordan," "Swing Down Sweet Chariot." "More About Jesus," another song that we did. This album is just priceless. It's killer. But Del McCoy was the choir director, worship guy at Faith Tabernacle. No, at Crossroads. Was he at Faith too? Might have been, but he was at Crossroads.
I think
for
he was
many
at Faith. I'm not sure he was at Crossroads.
He was at Crossroads. I know that because he worked with Rita King, with Swaggert's deal. They worked together for quite a while. I believe I think I'm right on that. But then Dale came to Calvary with us, and he led the choir, and David and I were and David was playing bass, and the youth pastor there, I think at the time. And I was doing the worship and a bunch of the leads and stuff. But Dale just worked us out. And me personally, I just owe so much to Dale, just taking me, snotty-nosed kid, 16, 17, 18 years old, and just pulling music out of me. We would do live TV shows at night. We had a TV deal with, it was a camp meeting deal. Coy Barker would come in, but we would learn a song in the afternoon with the choir, and we'd do it that night. Just brand new song we had never heard or something. That's back when I could remember lyrics, and we would. It was just incredible. So Dale just pulled a lot of music out of me that early on, that it gave me a lot of confidence and everything, I think is what I'm trying to say. And I just owe a ton to him. And then when this all happened, Dale was around and he had the Sooner State Boys, and Dale had a recording studio and was recording already, and it was just a natural fit for us to work with them.
So let me tell a couple things. One is at that time at Calvary, Mark and Kelly, I think, were in Missouri, and then they came back to Oklahoma, and they sang with Dale also. And I know Kelly sang with Dale, and Carolyn did a lot of background vocal stuff in the studio too. But when we went to talk to Dale, this is my favorite story about Dale ever. And we got a bunch of them, but this is my favorite story. When we went to talk to Dale, he said, yeah, meet me at the studio. So I don't know, it was like 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that. So we show up, he's not there yet. And then he shows up. And I think it was Scott and I can't remember if Mark was there or not, but I know Scott was there. And so we went in, and Dale comes up to the front door, got nothing in his hands. He does the alarm, opens the door, we go in, go back to his office, sit down, and we're just chit-chatting, and Dale sits down at his table while we're talking, and he reaches down in a drawer and he opens this drawer and he brings up these two long foil things about this long, about that big around, and there's whatever was in it, there's two of them wrapped up in foil. So he takes the first one, opens it up. What is a chili dog? It was 9 o'clock in the morning. The chili dogs had been sitting in his desk all night long. And he starts eating this chili dog. And I'm like, Dale, what are you doing? He goes, I'm just having a little breakfast. I'm like, you have a refrigerator back there or something? What is going on? He goes, no, these are from Coney Island. They have the best, chili dogs. And I just always keep some in my desk. How do you just
Always keep some in my desk.
Well, you gotta have a snack.
Like they're non-perishable.
That's right.
I was like, how do you just eat a chili dog that's been your desk all
He
night?
didn't eat just one. He had two. Okay, and they were
Dale might have lived a little longer if he
delicious.
cut that out.
I've thought about that many times since Dale passed away of cancer, and I always thought it's those chili dogs get him in. Yeah,
Oh,
but
man.
he got us set up, and we did 3 albums with Kelly in that first year, and then we did and at first Dale produced them in the sense that he booked all the musicians, and he especially on those first 3, he like really kind of showed us what to do in the studio, and I'd say he was helpful for that. And by the way, I'm with Scott. We're eternally grateful to everything that Dale did. But then I started doing some engineering for Dale, and then after that, we called Dale our producer, but we just did it through him, and I started producing stuff. Some I'm proud of, some I'm not proud of.
Yes, some none of us are proud of. But I will say this: Dale was always there, and
no, he wasn't.
well, no, I mean, when we were doing,
and I'm not dissing Dale. Dale's amazing, but
No,
he wasn't.
for us.
yeah, I just mean on some of the parts stuff, there were
Yeah.
times when we were recording in studio acting, he would say, "Hey, do this."
Right.
Or that. And he kept us on track.
That's when we would bring Dale in the most, is when we were recording our vocals. Because arranging the songs and working with the band, I did most of that, and then we definitely bring Dale in when we were doing our vocals for sure. And there's a long story in one of the previous podcasts where we talk about Dale helping on vocals, and even just throwing Jason out of the room and singing his part for a little bit.
There was a master. What would you say? Negotiator. He negotiated us through a lot of things.
Yeah,
I was like Dale. I was like working with Dale when we do live shows with him, because he had a bus with air conditioning.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we
Yeah,
got to sit
He
on
had
the
the bus
boys, but
with the air conditioning. You would have ice on the outside of the windows in a 90-degree day outside in Oklahoma.
That's personally how I enjoy spending life, with it pretty chill.
yeah,
We
because
did
when we
all
started out,
outdoor
Go ahead.
shows when it was 103 in the shade, and we'd all go to Dale's bus. Let us in, please. Like knowing the arc.
Yeah, because when we started out, we just traveled with a van and a trailer, and then we moved up to RV thing. And
Yeah. At the very
but
beginning, we didn't have we showed up in cars and whatever we had to get there.
yeah,
You always had a bus.
bicycles,
Yeah,
riding our bikes.
skateboards, whatever it took.
So, Jason, other than Dale throwing you out one day, do you have any special memories of little Dale?
That is obviously probably my most memorable as far as that is concerned. And it wasn't that he threw me out. I mean, we can kind of rehash it. I mean, we can
It's fun to say he threw you
I know
out.
you figured
It's
it was
fun to say.
talking, but
Yeah, we like to say he threw you out, but he was
no,
nice.
it was on winging my way back home because it
Oh,
was
okay.
a Sooner State Boys song. And naturally I'm singing his part because he was the baritone, and so naturally I'm singing his part, and he's like, "Get out of here, punk! You're not hitting it right." So here we go. And so, but yeah, we kind of talked about that a little bit, on the Christmas podcast, in the fact that little things that we had hidden, on some of our tracks or songs, I should say, our recordings that the general public wouldn't know. But I mean, to be honest with you, I loved doing some of those all night singings that we did with the Sooner State Boys. Me, I'm a little bit younger than you guys, and I didn't have the musical background as far as gospel music is concerned that you guys had, and so I didn't have that influence. So Dale was a new character to me, and so and by the time of his life, that's pretty much what he was. He was a character.
Yeah, he was for sure.
He was it was almost like he was this this character that he portrayed. And Dale P. McCoy, P for Precious. And
He's for precious.
but no, it was it was my first exposure to recording. It was my first exposure to being in a studio, a major studio, I should say. I'd done a couple demos and stuff at somebody's personal home studio that they had done, but this was the first big thing. It was, I mean, there's so many things about the studio itself, that I remembered that was, to me, was really neat. I mean, kind of the maze getting back to the main room, you had to go up the stairs, and I mean, it was just kind of awkward, but to me, it added to the mystique, if you will. I'm going to stop trying to do air quotes. But adding to adding to the mystique and
Scott,
stuff
Scott, you have to talk. You have to talk so it'll.
I
they can
know.
see you.
I didn't want to interrupt Jason. I was just showing you guys the pictures. Sorry. That's
No,
Dale
that's
in the
fine.
studio there.
But some of those, I mean, I know he had the one studio downstairs. He had the studio upstairs, that they'd ended up working on. And I think Kelly ended up working for him for a little while too, if I
Yeah.
remember right.
Yeah, Kelly worked for Dale for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
So it was, I mean, like I said, to me, it was a fresh experience. I mean, for you guys, it was kind of coming full circle to an extent with him. But for me, it was a fresh experience, and it was an opportunity to see this character that was just, he was bigger than life. And it was, he was a master at what he did vocally. And you just kind of sat in awe sometimes. But I think more than anything, it was the full package that he was that made him so special. And the iterations that he had at the Sooner State Boys in the times that we were there. Him being the constant, he was a great guy. There's obviously things that I remember, aside from Dale, far as oh my gosh, here we go. Aside from Dell, with the recording stuff.
I like the picture where we all have hair. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. This picture here is probably my favorite of all time. Us kissing Dale on top of his head, his partially bald head. That was just fun. He made
Well, it wasn't fun kissing him on the head, but we
a
had
lot of fun. Well, we kissed at his head, and then there you and David are with Dale. One thing I wanted to say, Dale had little sayings, and one of them you won't be able to understand really, but one of them was "pardon the growth," and probably my favorite because he would go to shake your hand and he would bend his finger in, and so you're shaking his hand and you've got this lump in the middle of your hand, and he said, "Pardon the growth." It's just funny stuff, and I still do that to this day because of him. And then the other one, he shakes your hand. He says, "You ask somebody how they're doing, he'll go, fine, thanks to Calvary." So those were two little Dale puns. There's probably more that I may have forgotten.
More that we can't tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell one. It's the one you're all thinking of, and people don't know this.
I may not. I may have forgotten it.
No, you know it. I don't know if anybody will be offended, but especially when we were working on those choir days, we'd be sitting there like taking a long break. Like we'd have a band rehearsal and then a choir rehearsal, and they'll just be sitting there, and all of a sudden he'd start singing.
Oh,
I feel like hell. I feel like hell. I feel like helping some soul today.
Yeah. I don't care if that does offend somebody. That's funny right there.
The first time he did that, I fell out. I just like, because you think he's doing one thing, but he's doing another. It was so funny.
It was great to watch all the little gray-haired ladies just like, yeah, just like
pulling his hair out. Word. That was generally what he did when I was in the booth singing.
Pulling his hair out.
And I've stole this line from him for years. He'd do it. He's always say, "I had a full head of hair before I met you guys," and I pulled it all out. So I've kind of stole that over the years too. Okay, I want to wrap up, Dale, but I do want to mention, and you mentioned off that album from back the early origination of Center State Boys, we did Winging My Way Back Home, the arrangement that they did on that album. And I remember when I told Dale we wanted to record that, I was just like overwhelmed with like gratitude. And he was like, I can't believe you guys want to do this. And like, and wow. And so he was just like honored that we did Winging their style. And then once we started singing it, he was like, "Oh Lord."
Yeah.
And then and also
he also
More About Jesus was another song that we did.
Yeah.
We didn't do their arrangement. We changed it up a little bit.
Right. And on Winging, correct me if I'm wrong, because you were in the booth, I think, when this happened, David. When we were doing Winging, didn't you come out for something? And he was literally in tears just because of the memory of him. And he was really missing Monty Montgomery at the time, I think. And it just brought back a flood of memories for him. And it was just cool to be able to share something like that with the guy. And
boy, it was so bad. He was just crying. He was in tears. He's like,
yeah, it was. So it's like, I can't believe these guys are butchering my song this bad. Monty would be rolling over in his grave. But the other thing I wanted to, and I don't know if I mentioned it to you guys, Mark might remember this lady, Cindy St. John, Cindy Walker. She used to sing with them as well, with Monty and Carolyn. But I got a hold of her this week, and I have tried to message Carolyn a few times through Facebook and everything. I just don't think she catches that really. But Cindy was able to get me Carolyn's phone number, so I'm going to call her and see if she can make it to the show.
That'd be great. Love that. Yeah,
she's freaking amazing. Carolyn herself is just an incredible vocalist.
Carolyn has sang on more people's records that came through Oklahoma than you can imagine.
Yeah, you will never know. She's everywhere. She is phenomenal.
Kelly, Carol, and Dale, as well as Cindy St. John, did background vocals, the trio vocals on. Cindy sang on everybody's record too, but Dale always had that trio, and Carolyn was, of course, a part of that. But they sang background vocals on all kinds of people. You just can't imagine. I could start dropping names, but don't need.
Well, let's that conversation meant a lot to us. I know because Dale was so important to us. And if you want to understand the McLaughlin brothers, that's a big part of the story is working with Dale and
Dale's
all
fault.
that he meant to us. But let's just talk about some of our favorite stories over the years. What are some things maybe that we didn't tell in the Christmas stuff that pops out in y'all's minds?
One is we should all be embarrassed, everybody but Jason, about taking mom with us to Texas and getting cut off on the highway and chasing a guy down.
I have no recollection of that.
What's that?
I have no recollection of that.
Well, you were part of the ringleaders, so I think you should.
Tell
I didn't do
the
anything
story,
like that.
Scott. Tell it.
David was driving one day.
An RV. It was the
An
RV.
RV, a 30
With a trailer
foot
on back.
RV with a 10-foot trailer on the back. And a couple guys in a truck. We're on the highway. We're in Texas somewhere. Don't even know where we're at. And these guys pull out in front of us and just cut us off and just slam on the brakes. And David has to literally lock it up and throws everybody around. We've got mom. Mom actually, I think it was the only time she ever went with us, the first and last time she ever went with us. She realized what we would do. And so, of course, that irritated all of us for other words that we might use later on. But it happened a couple times. The guys were just being jerks and slammed on the brakes a few times. Well, it finally put David over the limit. And Dave says, "We're getting them, guys." And so these guys take an exit and we follow them. It was not our exit, but we made it our exit. So as soon as we get to the stop sign, Mark and I jump out the side of the door of the RV and start to run up to their truck. Well, they book it. They just take off. So we jump back in and start going down this side road, and it's a dirt road, narrow dirt road, and we're in a 30-foot RV with a trailer just bouncing all over the place. Mom's going, "Guys, stop it! Guys, stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" And of course, like good sons, we didn't listen to her, and we kept going. And they're in a truck just by themselves, so they obviously blow away from us, and we finally give up trying to find them. So we start trying. I've actually written a chorus to this song with one of the guys at work called "Jackknife in the Middle of the Road." So we end up trying to turn. It's a small, narrow road. We end up trying to turn back and forth this trailer and RV up. We get stuck a few times just trying to get this. That was an episode in itself. We all argued, and I think all of us took a turn trying to get out. Well, about halfway through this ordeal of trying to get turned around, all of a sudden this truck starts coming back towards us, and it's the guys in the truck. They're laughing at us and everything because we're stuck, and they just take off. And of course, that irritated us even more. But we finally got out of that, got to the show that night, and we worshiped the Lord like none other.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say the guy in the truck was the pastor's son.
That would have been awesome. That would have made the.
I would like to say that I'm a much more peaceful person now, and I wouldn't do that today. But at the time,
Why?
I'm not sure about me and Mark.
well, what else? What other stories pop in y'all's minds?
The time you had to track down the guy that wasn't going to pay us, I think it was in a field.
I had that on my list, so I'll tell that story. It is the same one because we had multiple people who tried not to pay us. But
Yeah, there were a few that tried not to pay us.
there was a pastor in Arkansas City, Kansas, and if I remembered his name, I'd tell you. But he invited us up to sing, and this was like probably midway through. It was very rare that we had what we call fee dates, where they pay us an exact amount, and we're going to do this. Most of the time, we go up for a love offering. We're dependent on the churches to out of their love for us and all that they would pay us. And this guy said, "We're doing a Sunday night, like a group sing where a bunch of different groups get together. And then we want you guys also to sing at our church Sunday morning." And he said, listen, I've been out there on the road. I've sang, I've done all that. I understand what it's like. We're going to take good care of you. Like, okay. So we did the Saturday night thing, move all the equipment into the church on Sunday morning, set up,
Which is a
did the
lovely
whole,
thing to have to do.
did the whole concert Sunday morning. And then when it's time for us to get paid, I'm looking around for the pastor. I can't find the guy, and I'm looking everywhere for him. I asked one of the deacons or somebody, I said, where's the pastor at? And he's like, oh, he left. He had to catch a plane. He's gone. I was like, well, did he leave our check? And they were like, no. I said, well, somebody needs to pay us money. Like, it costs us money to get here. Somebody needs to pay us money before we leave. And they said they didn't have the access to anything or whatever. Nobody paid. Well, you just took up the money and we'll take what's in the bag, But that's not how they did it. So they didn't pay us. And I called that guy multiple times and he never would return my calls. The next part of the story is his son also pastors a church in Kansas. I don't remember where in Kansas, but he calls us a few months later. It's like, hey, Dad said you guys were amazing and we'd love to have you come sing at our church. And I said, oh, we'd love to. It'll be $3,000 and we'll be there. And he's like, okay. He was like, okay. So we're like, all right. So I think I made him send a deposit and everything. So go up, sing at his place in Kansas. That guy treated us great, paid us our money, no problems. And I was like, well, he didn't learn that from his dad. I know that.
Well,
Go
ahead, because that's not the one I was thinking of. I forgot about that one.
Well, I was going to say the other one.
You had to track a guy down. It was an outdoor event that we did. I think it was around 4th of July or something. And the guy was just wandering in the backwoods, out by the woods.
I know what you're talking about.
Waiting for us to leave so he could
come. He was trying to avoid us until we leave. And I had to walk all across this field to hunt him down to get our money because he was trying to avoid us. But the other one, I say that, like, when I think of people who didn't pay us, another one that gets in my mind.
They're so numerous.
There were a lot, but there was a time we did this concert in Missouri. It was on a Sunday morning, and that's like your anchor date for the weekend. Like, you can do Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, Sunday night, but Sunday morning is probably when you're going to make your most money usually. And we went and sang at this guy's church, and he had told us how he was going to take good care of us and all that. And I told him, I said, it's not a demand, but this is how much we need. And I don't remember what it was at the time, but this is how much we need for that date. Oh, and he also promised us that he would book other dates around it. And he didn't do that. And we had to do everything ourselves. And so we sing for him. We all go get to leave. And we're driving off away from the place. And I said, hey, how much was it? Because Scott used to keep the money box with all the sales money and usually the check from the church, everything. I said, hey, how much was the offering? Scott goes, oh, just, I don't know. I'll look at it in a bit, which I thought was kind of weird at the time. We just keep driving. We keep driving. And it hit my mind again. I said, hey, did you look at how much that check was? How much was it? He's like, oh, no, not yet. I'll get it. We keep driving. Finally, and what I found out later is you three were just trying to get me as far away from that church as possible because you knew I was in no mood at that point for any BS. And finally, Scott told us, and I think it was like $130. And it was like to travel 7 hours, set up, sing, all that. It was like $130. And I said, turn this. Somebody else was driving. I said, turn this thing around. Everybody's like, nope. We were on our way to our Sunday night date. And everybody's like, nope. I wanted to go back and kill that guy so bad.
At the very end, I vaguely remember that. I was like, I don't think I would ever not tell you.
I know
how much something was. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you guys didn't want me to go back and whoop him. Because, again, I'm a more peaceful person now. But back then, I was a little more
not so peaceful. Well, I feel kind of bad because I started this off, this part, and it's like we're just beating everybody up. We weren't violent like that all the time.
People wonder why we quit. That's why we couldn't get
Yeah,
paid.
there you go. We've
can
had
run
enough
from this.
finally. But
We beat each other up. And
one
there's
thing,
a good story about that if you want to go back and listen to the
yeah,
Christmas.
check
There's
out
a good story
check
about
out the
fist
previous
fights.
ones. One thing I was thinking was, what were our, if we can remember, Jason might be the only one that remembers this. I have one. Well, I have a couple. Our favorite concerts or shows that we did, and
Oh, that we did?
yeah, that we did. One of mine, and I know there's a picture somewhere, and I've for those of y'all watching this, we had gathered. I've got all of the pictures that we actually have taken, and I'm just going through them, trying to make a collage of all of them, and have them digitally done. But I haven't found this one in any of the stuff that we've got. Is a picture of us on, I think it was Myrtle Beach.
Mm-hmm.
There's a amphitheater type deal, and we were set up on the beach with the ocean to our back, and it was just freaking cool. We'd be singing along, and you could just feel the spray of the ocean hitting the back of your neck. It's like, we have arrived, man, is what I thought. But it was like, the amphitheater was pretty full with people. They actually stopped and listened, and it was a cool gig. But I was like, this is just awesome.
I remember
That might have been my first trip to the ocean too, so that's probably why that one meant quite a
I
bit.
remember in that concert alone that David Hill, who was the lead singer for Gold City at the time, saying, I'm not giving up. His wife was actually there at that show. I remember that.
At the beach?
She came up and introduced herself to us.
Wow. I don't remember that, but that's really cool. But yeah, that was a fun deal. How about Mark or David? Do y'all have, well, other than the live recording, the Sing For You thing, I think that's just priceless in my head.
What Scott's talking about there is the very first show we did, kind of a Legends of Gospel show. We did it in Yukon, Oklahoma. We recorded our set for a live album. But we did that show with J.D. Sumner and the Stamps, Hovey Lister and the Statesmen, Jake Hess, and I think James Blackwood Quartet. I think that's everybody who was at that show. And that was sold out, 3,000 seats. And we recorded a live album. And that was definitely a great show. That was a good time.
That was I think about that tour. I think about, the different cities and stuff that we hit, and being able to, and I think we kind of touched a little bit on this on the Christmas podcast, but, being able to go from city to city with those guys and, actually getting to garner relationships with them as opposed to just these, young boys that are doing this stuff, and or promoting this or that, it gave us, I loved, Scott just sent me a picture yesterday. Yeah, that one there.
Sent this one right here.
Yeah.
And if you can tell, that's if I can get my finger to work
we
right.
just get done. That's me and Jake, and then Scott's in between us. You can see his head there. But as we're walking up the aisle, but being able to sit down, next to those guys and have them call you by name,
Okay. I'm glad you said that, Jason. That was crazy. I didn't, oh shoot. Sorry to cut you off, but that is, you just struck a nerve with me. We were sitting, I think it was Wichita Falls.
Yep.
I think you and I were both sitting just listening, and Blackwood Brothers were up rehearsing for the show that night. They were just doing sound check or something, and we're sitting there, and Jake Hess walks up, and shake your head if I'm headed to the right spot, Jason, but Jake Hess walks up behind us and sits down. We're just in the auditorium, just sitting there, just kind of taking it all in, going, I can't believe we're sitting here with these guys and everything. And Jake walks up behind us, puts his hand on our shoulders. He goes, hey, Scott, Jason, well, he was talking to me. He said, hey, Scott, when you imitate me, we did a song that we kind of imitated all these guys and everything. And I'm sitting there, and I barely heard whatever he said after that. But he just said, hey, Scott, when you're imitating, and I thought, oh my gosh, Jake Hess knows my name. Jake freaking Hess just said my name and everything. But he was telling me how to do the finger roll when I was doing his part on the song. It just blew me away. And that is a moment in my life that is just etched in my head. Jake Hess saying, "Hey Scott," I was floored. That's all I needed.
Similar fashion, that same show. I mean, he told me to come sit next to him on the side steps of the stage. I mean, like there's this, it was the stage and you had steps on either side, and he's wearing a coverall jumpsuit and didn't have his wig on. So he had a captain's, like a sailor's captain's hat,
Like what Mark's got on.
No,
No.
it was actually,
Oh, the sailor one. I know what you're talking about. The sailor one.
yeah, like the skipper, like from Gilligan's Island. And he used to always wear that. And he was like, "Jason, come here and sit down next to me." And I'm just like, it was like gravy, just eating it up and just sitting there listening to him, and just in similar fashion, Scott, I don't even remember what we talked about, other than because after he told me to come sit down next to him, but those are some of the things that personally that we can hold on to. It's nothing that's super life-changing, touching a story. It's the small stuff of being able to be with these guys backstage. And I mean, the whole thing of the Hovey Listener and the Statesman, giving us the mic, tie pins.
Oh my
I
God.
forgot all about that.
Stuff like that.
forgot.
Out of the blue, we get this package in the mail, and because we had mentioned that we liked, because they had gold ones. They had these RCA microphone gold tie pins, and we just thought those were the coolest things. And then, a month or two later, after we got done with the tour, David gets this package, and the next weekend we're together. He's like, "Hey boys, we got a present from Hovey Lister and the Statesman." And we're like, "What?" And it was silver. They were silver RCA microphone pins.
I think I still have mine.
Amazing.
It pops up every now and then. I think I've got it.
How amazing and cool is that? That those guys thought of us, and was able to, I mean, small stuff like that, that just make huge impacts, and are so meaningful that to some people it wouldn't, it's no big deal, but hey, I got a tie pin, that a tie pin, but the sentimental meaning behind it and what it stood for and what it meant, to all of us, was super cool.
Another show that stands out in my mind is we did an annual singing in the summertime that was called Eldon Lyon Park in Bethany, Oklahoma, and we'd invite several different groups. And we did that, I can't remember, 3 or 4 years, but we had a lot of different people come sing at that. We had Gold City sing with us. We had the New Hensons, the Weatherfords, Greater Vision, all kinds of people. I can't remember, but those were fun shows. But I have an embarrassing story about that, and Steve Weatherford teases me about this all the time. You guys remember Bud Chambers? So Bud Chambers was an evangelist, and he was famous for tent revivals back in the day, and he still like sold tents and stuff. And we had rented some tents from Bud for one of those programs for the artists to be under and stuff. And it was the first year of the Eldon Lyon singing, and I'm working my head off because we've got crews out there setting the stage up.
There you go.
This is a picture of Gold City. Tim Riley, Mark Trammell, Jay Perrick. I can't remember their lead singer's name on this one. That's not David Hill. That's somebody else.
I want to say that might be David Hill, but the other guy, I think that's Tim Riley's son who's in the band. But
Tim Riley's son is.
Yes, it is. It is, but I can't remember the other.
But anyway, so I'm working. I'm making sure all the artists are good, everything. I'm just like running like crazy. And we're about to sing, and it's dark now. And right before we come up on stage, Bud Chambers comes up to me and says, "Hey, I've counted, and there's 4,000 people here." Well, the lights are in my eyes. I can't see like the crowd really. I step up on stage, and at some point in our set, I say, and I heard there's 4,000 people here, and we're so excited, and blah blah blah. Get off stage, and I'm like, when I walk around, I'm like, there's nowhere close to 4,000 people here. But that was Bud evangelistically counted like up to 4,000 or something. I don't remember that. But to this day, every once in a while, Steve Weatherford, like if we talk about numbers or something, he'll say, probably 4,000. Like, yeah, thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Bud Chambers was a character as well.
Yeah, he was. And he had written a bunch of huge gospel songs. What he wrote, I'm a Poor Rich Man.
I don't know.
And if you hadn't asked, I could have thought of some maybe, but that's
Poor Rich Man was one of his biggest. And then he wrote a bunch of others too, but he's a pretty well-known writer as well.
I remember doing some shows back in the early, probably the first biggest show that I remember doing. And Kelly was still with the group there for a little while. She still played and sang with us, and we were doing the Royal Rangers convention in Fort Worth, and it was right after the first of the year. And I was still learning. Well, my very first show, I got thrown to the wolves in the fact that because Kelly had, I think her grandmother passed away or something, and so she ended up having to go to Missouri, and they're like, "Okay, Jason, you ready? Here we go." And I was like, "What?" And it was a small, I think it was like a small revival at United Methodist Church there in Bethany, and Muzon Biggs was the speaker. I remember that. I remember the name, and and just listen to how dynamic of a speaker that guy was. But at the same time, that was my first thing. But so the next big thing that we did was the Royal Rangers convention. She's back. I don't have all the songs down and stuff. And I just remember, some of the times that I would get up there and Kelly'd be singing, to fill out the harmony of the part and everything. And I'm up there just lip singing, just and stuff. And I just remember it. I mean, we did let's see. So that would have been in 96, like January, I believe in 96 is when the Royal Rangers convention, we did it then. And we did it the next year in 97. We did it in Waco, Texas. I was sick. I remember that one. I was sick and ended up having to do more lip syncing then too, because my voice had just, and I remember we went and ate. This first time I'd ever had alligator in Waco. We went and getting to the venue. Oh my gosh, getting to the venue is the first time that Scott, I remember hearing the Corps of Engineers strikes again. And I was like, what are you talking about? We got caught in this roundabout, and the lanes and the way that they were doing it. And he got so confused on how he's like, we're like, it almost reminded me of, the movie European Vacation, there's Big Ben. There's Big Ben. He kept going around in circles, and he's like, I don't know where I'm going. He's like, Corps of Engineers strikes again.
On that show, the one in Waco, I remember you said the Royal Rangers event. The Royal Rangers are
Hold on, let me explain it because I love this. I always say the Royal Rangers is a part of the Assemblies of God denomination, and it's their version of the Cub Scouts.
Boy Scouts.
And I always like to say that it's a small paramilitary organization.
Well, that's a perfect description too. But I remembered I wrote a song called "Marching to a Battle," and I don't think we were planning to do the song at this deal. But after we got there, David looks at us and says, "We got to do "Marching to a Battle" with this group of people," and they're hundreds, if not thousands of. It was a huge place, I think, convention for them or whatever. So we started singing "Marching to a Battle," and that place went freaking nuts. It was like the little paramilitary guys came out of the woodworks, but it was fun. It was fun.
I had actually forgot about that till Jason just mentioned it, and I didn't remember the marching to the battle until you said that, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, and they went freaking wild when we
We're
did
marching
that.
to a battle that we've already won. It's funny.
They had their guns in the air. They were
Yeah.
firing their pistols. That didn't happen.
popping caps off in the auditorium. You mentioned Steve Weatherford, and something that I am really looking forward to with the show coming up is singing a particular song. We haven't figured it out yet, I don't think. Maybe something within or something. But Steve, we found some old microphones in Dad's storage unit. This is the only thing that was worth keeping. David got one, Mark got one, and I got one. This old RCA. This is microphone, and we had Steve Weatherford restore these for us. And I think, if I'm not wrong, we're gonna attempt to do a song on all, at least one on these. Gather around one and do it. I just thought that was
I
pretty
think
cool.
that'd be fun. Something Within would be a good one to do that on.
Yeah, and so it'd be kind of nostalgic.
And one of the things that's cool about that is that's how, like, the old Statesman and Blackwood Brothers, they used to use those mics back in the 50s, and they just set two mics up and do their entire concert like that. So that was pretty impressive. It's a skill set to be able to sing on that.
It is a skill set.
And JD Sumner, a little bit of history, some that might not know that. JD Sumner is the one that got groups to start singing on 4 different mics instead of just one. And
JD Sumner also invented the tour bus.
the tour
Every
bus
country and
converting.
rock singer and pop singer who uses tour buses all have JD Sumner to thank for that. He invented
Yes,
the
they
idea.
do. Every time they lay their heads to go to bed in the bus, in the bunk.
Speaking of shows that we did that are stick out in our mind, I always enjoyed, believe it or not, doing the bluegrass shows.
Yeah,
It was a hoot, and we were completely a novelty act for them, and they loved it. And at least myself, I always absolutely enjoyed playing those shows.
Those people. Second time that's happened.
something
happened?
happened to Mark's microphone, and it sounded like the devil was talking through. It was just an internet lag thing.
Well, that happened in
Just
the
for a
last
second.
podcast too.
Yeah.
I like the bluegrass shows, is what I was trying to
Yeah.
say.
And we did a lot of stuff like that. We did like these bluegrass shows. We did these state fairs, county fairs, all this kind of stuff. I remember Ernie
Walmart.
Hay in Duncan, Oklahoma had
Haystack
Haystack Productions, and he'd book us.
And with the bluegrass deal, we got to do a few of those with Ricky Skaggs.
Well,
Did you catch that?
The festival that we used to do quite often was in Glen Rose, Texas. We used to do that one, and a friend of mine now who he's in a bluegrass band, pretty good. It's called Spring Street. They do that one a lot. That one, Scott, right there, that wasn't at a bluegrass festival. That was at Spirit Fest Midwest.
Oh, it was.
You're actually wearing
I was showing the guys, this is Ricky
You're actually
Skaggs
wearing
there.
the
We got
Spirit Fest
Ricky up
Midwest
there.
shirt in the picture.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
whatever. Anyway,
Amy, JD,
but
Jake.
no, the Rose, Texas. I remember that one. They put us up in like cabins on the grounds there, and I remember one of those shows there that we were actually working on an album, and I remember in the cabins we all sat down and we started working on our thank yous and our liner notes for one of our albums. But It was really cool. Every so often, we barely got to feel like celebrities. Every so often, most of the time we were all humbled, but like celebrities. And
Jason's verklempt. It looks like he locked up.
they got to, I should say, they took us to where we were able to.
Something's happening with his connection, I think there.
Yeah. I'll tell a story.
Riveting.
I was thinking about asking you guys about this because apparently I have a note. Apparently we went and Jason, you cut out is why we moved on.
Oh, okay.
But looks like you're back now. But I think what Jason was saying was at some point we got treated nicely. But
It's still
he cut out again.
Sorry.
okay, this was like I think almost a 2-hour interview, 90 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. And so we decided to pause right here to give you a little break, and then we'll post the other session coming up soon. So Friday night, July 19th, 2024. Get your tickets now for the 30th anniversary concert. We hope to see you all there, and we'll see you soon for the second half of our podcast. Thanks.